Now I
There
hear
we
you.
go.
How are you?
We're good. How
So
are you?
good, good. Jess and Chris, right?
Yep, Jess
Yep.
and Chris.
Cool.
Bunch of
Uh,
strangers from 700 miles away.
We've never met in person, me and him.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Thanks to
Interesting.
MySpace, we met back when she did Street Team for Victory, and
And I had
been
another
friends ever
online
since.
magazine at the time. So,
Right on.
and that's why I started the podcast up because I was like, I miss doing that stuff.
That's cool. Can you hear me all right? Is this gonna work with the recording and
Yeah,
everything?
sounds great.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, we should get
I love it.
started. I mean,
Whatever you want to do. Yeah. I mean,
hey,
Yeah.
hey, listeners and viewers, we're here with Mike Herrera, obviously, if you know who we're talking about.
With it being 5 years in between records, how did it feel releasing Find a Way Home after such a long time?
really seeing Find a Way Home, it felt like it was time. It felt like we had spent enough time working on the record. People had gone through a whole weird life change. A lot of people had. So yeah, I mean, it felt like a lifetime had happened since our self-titled in 2018. So you kind of had the right ideas. Just for us, we feel like there was never a good time to release it. Like when we weren't ready to when we got ready to release it, we released it. But it just took so long to like put little pieces together that we wanted to do, aside from just the songs, aside from the artwork, which all those take forever as well. But piecing all the marketing plan and the merchandise and the look of the world of Find a Way Home, it's got this kind of new era look for MXPX. We've always had, not always, but we've had cartoony artwork a lot, colorful artwork a lot. And I feel like we just kind of leaned even further into that cartoon world of the poking at you punk. But but you're right. It took too long. 5 years is too long for me. I mean, come on. We need to do this
Right.
sooner next time.
Oh yeah. Hey, mentioning that album, Pochinanka, I don't even know how you say that.
Poking at you?
I did have a friend. He was like, "When are you guys releasing that on vinyl?"
Oh yeah. I think it was released on vinyl.
Uh-oh.
It
He
was
doesn't
released
know
on
then.
vinyl through our box set,
Ah,
which is kind of technically not the same thing, but it technically is on vinyl, but it was part of a set. Um, and I'm not sure if I'm remembering right, but I thought it was on vinyl already through Tooth and Nail like years ago, but definitely not originally. Like when we put out Poking at You, our first album, it was all about tapes and CDs. That's it.
well, yeah.
MP3s didn't exist, none of that. Vinyl existed, but we weren't really doing vinyl. 7 inches we did do. We actually released a 7 inch pretty soon after our album came out. So yeah, I mean, we've always kind of been into vinyl, but it's taken what 30 plus years to and it's like our steady winner. Like as far as like all the formats, um, vinyl just wins the day.
Well,
I
yeah, I
love it.
mean, it's that revival too right now. So the vinyl revival.
Yeah, it's been, I mean, over the pandemic, over the last, couple of years ago, vinyl was so hard to make because everybody was trying to make vinyl and all the plants had shut down. And so, like, the few plants that there were left, it was really rough. But last year has been much better. Um, I think there's more plants online just making records, and then there's less of like the Adele, Taylor Swift thing. That of course happens, but you get like one artist taking up a whole record pressing plant for like 3 months, like things like
Right.
that. That really sets back a lot of other artists' plans and vinyl, records and I mean, that's just life, though. I mean, things like that happen all the time with toilet paper, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Bulk buying, people wrestling in the grocery store for it. I mean, that was
The
craziness.
the great part about that is everyone was fighting for toilet paper. I went and bought a bidet. Uh, so the supply didn't hit me as hard.
Wow. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You've been into that. Do you tell all your friends about that, or
Oh,
is
my
it
favorite
like
thing,
cold
my
plunging?
favorite thing. Yeah, my favorite thing is when we have a house party and nobody's used one before, and I'm like, dude, you gotta try the bidet. My best friend had come over once and she'd never used one. I'm like, Katie, go in and try the bidet, and she was skeptical. And then I don't know, maybe 3 minutes later, I hear maniacal giggling. Like I'm like,
Wow.
she's using it. Awesome.
I can
All
say
right.
I've never used one.
Wait, what's this podcast called?
Bidets.
Jam
Love
XB.
Hey,
Jam
I,
XB.
MXP.
I think with most things, don't knock it till you try it. I'm not saying try every drug on the planet, kids, but a lot of things seem to be like that in life, where it sounds gross, a type of food, a vegetable, whatever, and it is actually pretty good. And bidets are kind of one of those things. Like, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. I've been to Japan a lot, so I've had the opportunity to use bidets a lot, and yes, they work. They work well. I like them. I back it. But isn't it like that? Like with, all sorts of things, bands, your favorite band that you like, somebody else heard, oh, I heard they were terrible, blah, blah, whatever it is, right? It's just, you're always hearing a story from someone and you're telling your own story. And if you don't tell your own story, someone else is going to tell that story for you. It could be anything in life. Bidets definitely get a bad rap. That's why I brought this up.
All right, back to the music talk. Enough bidet. So you guys have always had a specific tone and sound. So like the record has the classic whistles and everything from, a normal MXPX record. However, I think it's evolved a little. That being said, how would you compare the newest release to the previous ones you've released over the years?
Well, Find a Way Home was a record that we knew we wanted to be in the same vein as our 2018 record, but we wanted to take it a step further in some of the themes. Some of the lyrics are looking at the darker side of life in some ways, but at the same time, looking at that dark side, keeping it positive. Like MXPX has always been about positivity, and that is the theme I think we just continue to thread through all our albums. Not necessarily every song, but every album has songs that really just carry you and can lift you up. And I feel like MXPX has tried to be a lot of things over the years. We've definitely had harder songs, fast songs, slow songs, pop songs. It's just because my brain, I like all these genres of music, and I like punk rock, and I kind of just put it together that way. So with Find a Way Home, the new album, the only way we can really truly feel good about making a new record is if it's coming out naturally. So whatever is just coming out naturally. And at the same time, there are things that come out naturally that you're like, okay, let's pick that set that aside. Like, that's not fitting in the Jello mold, right? Picture an album like a Jello mold, one of those things that jiggle. And there's things in there, and so like not everything fits in that Jello mold. But with MXP, for each record, what I mean by that is, you've got a certain sound, and then all of a sudden one song sounds completely different. Like MXPX has kind of been known for that a little bit, but we try to stay in the same arm of melodic punk rock. We get into that skate punk kind of thing, but the melodies and the guitar progressions really just drive this album. And Yuri, by the way, our drummer, he really did a great job. He always does, though. I mean, he's a machine. If you listen to the drums, like those are just like a couple takes and we're done kind of stuff. Like, he's really amazing. So if only Yuri was in charge of making the record and just his stuff, we'd be making a record every year, because he's just so quick at it. But everybody else takes a little longer, including myself, at actually even just writing the songs.
Nice. Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
know when we contacted you, you mentioned MXPX is doing a ton of shows this year. Is there anything you can share about that?
Absolutely. So we have the record came out, and we started out by doing a bunch of festivals, and by the end of last year, 2023, we started doing headlining shows. And so it's just like a cycle for us is preparing ourselves for the headlining sets, because our headlining sets are very long, like about an hour and a half or so, maybe even a little longer at sometimes. I think we just sold out the Hollywood Palladium early January 2024, and that was one of the longest sets we've ever done. So like we're just kind of starting to push things even further. And with this new album tour with Find a Way Home, we're playing a bunch of songs on the new record. We're playing a bunch of classic MXPX punk songs, ones people want to hear, and so we're kind of like mixing it up like that. But we just did New York City. This is going to come out late February, so New York City and Philadelphia in early February, and then coming up we have Atlanta, Georgia, and Orlando, Florida, March 15th in Atlanta, March 16th in Orlando. So Atlanta is Buckhead Theater, Orlando is House of Blues, MXPX and the Ataris. And these shows have been so much fun because we get to kind of collab with each other. Chris coming up on stage. I'm inviting friends out to all these shows, bands, people I haven't seen in a while, even some people that I don't even know as well personally. I've kind of like run into them a few times on the road, on tour, backstage somewhere. I'm like hitting up friends to get numbers of people that I don't know to like invite them out. I feel like I don't do that enough, and I feel like musicians probably don't do that enough in general. And so I'm really trying to like push the envelope in inviting all these band members and friends of the industry, I guess you could say, just people I've met along the way. But I'm excited to see everybody.
Any
where
Midwest
you guys at?
states?
So you're in Wisconsin.
I'm Wisconsin.
Okay. Where were you,
in
Chris?
Syracuse,
New York.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. We are planning some Midwest stuff. It's just not announced yet. So people that haven't been able to get to a show on the outskirts, we will be doing some more Midwest stuff. I just don't know where exactly, when. And a lot of the stuff that we're kind of planning isn't announced yet. It's not ready to announce. We're doing some bigger shows, festival type stuff. We're going to head overseas. We're going to head up to Canada. We're going to be heading down. We're actually going to be in Mexico, March 29th, Sum 41, MXPX, the Ataris, Blanco, and Buen Vialde. I can't remember the exact name of the band, but they're a Spanish band or a Mexican band. So anyway, yeah, so we're starting to get more and more out there and get dates added. But I'm really excited about just playing with the Ataris, because those are our homies, like that's one of my favorite bands. Like I just love their songs, and anytime I hear those songs played live, it hits me with nostalgia. So you think people go out to shows for nostalgia. Well, I have bands on our shows for nostalgia, and they're doing great now too. But just for me personally, I just love all those songs. And Chris Rowe, singer of Ataris, just sent me a brand new couple songs that he just recorded. And I was just like, man, I got hit with that wave again. It's just got that classic Atari sound.
I love the Ataris. I remember seeing them a while ago. It was at Summerfest in Milwaukee, but this had to be back in like early 2000s.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. I mean, we became such good friends with them because we started out on a tour opening for the Vandals. It was the Vandals, MXPX, and the Ataris are opening. And it was the Turd Town tour. It was Nevada, California, all like kind of just like that Western region. And we played all the crappiest towns, as you can imagine, the Turd Town tour. And we just had such a blast. Like that was truly like, it felt like college for me. I didn't go to college. So for me, having tours with other bands, having experiences, lighting fireworks in hotel rooms, getting kicked out, that was my college, right? So maybe that's why I love the Atari so much, is I have so many fond memories in the past from them. And every time I see Chris, it's just like a brother. So we hang. Yeah.
I could see that. So I've really enjoyed the new record since it came out. A few songs off of it, Cautious, Optimistic, Call Me, and When We Broke Through, were a few of my favorites. Were there any songs on the record that you had to work harder on and get right in the mixing process?
There was a couple songs that there's always a couple songs off each record that go through a heavy, I wouldn't even say mixing, but like when we're about to record, when we're working out the arrangement, really. How many times you do this? How many times you do that? Should we even have this part in the song? Sometimes we'll take a part out. Sometimes we'll add new parts that weren't there for months, things like that. So let me think. When we broke through, one of your favorites, that's the second to last song on the record. But honestly, when I write a song, every time I write a new song, when I wrote When We Broke Through, I'm like, it goes like, change my mind, help me find a way to explain the pain, and it starts going off. I've kind of like got an idea of what I want it to sound like in my head, and I bring it to the band. And, all right, let's go, guys. Let's make this happen. And that song in particular, we could not agree. And it's usually Tom Wisniewski, our guitar player, and I. Everybody else is usually fairly cool. Chris, our the guitar player, he'll have ideas, but he's not going to be arguing, And then Yuri's is always, whatever you guys want. But that song in particular was like we couldn't agree on how to start it, where it goes because it's got this intro, and for me, I wanted the intro, well, kind of how it is, to be triumphant, just big, and kind of let it develop into all of a sudden we're in a pop punk song. I remember Tom, he wanted it to just like come right in. He's like, yeah, I don't really like that. I want the whole band coming in one time, boom, 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 let's go. I'm like, there's definitely a time and place for that. But I feel like if you, I was telling him this probably, I'm like, if you do an in-between thing, you're almost like half-assing this intro that you're trying to do. Whereas if you're going to half-ass it, just take it out completely and just start the song, which we've done that with other songs totally. And to be honest, Tom often has really great ideas, but this one in particular, I put my foot down. I was like, this is the intro. Maybe it's not the intro all the time, but I feel like this is the intro. And it stuck, and we got it on the record. So
Well, you got it on the record, so that's all that matters, right?
yeah, of course, right? You can always change it live. But I mean, I like to nail it. I like to, these days, like especially being a live band for so long, making records for so long, there's things that I change live. Melodies will change, the beat will change, like where we stop. We'll stop here when we don't ever stop on the record, things like that live. And to me, it's just, it's a couple things. It's one, maybe it's more entertaining that way in a live setting.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, it's like, okay, I don't know if this would work to have to hear it over and over and over. Like, you don't necessarily want a speech on your album, but if you're at the show and the singer's talking about something that you're like really into, maybe it's like, this is the story behind the song, something like that, then I think that makes sense. So I think in that lens, changing a song a little bit for a live setting to me makes a lot of sense. I wonder what your guys' opinion as listeners and showgoers are. Do you like it when bands do something a little different, or do you want to hear the album version of the melody? Because I mean, there's a real spectrum to the differences that can occur. Like Bob Dylan, and then like something that I do is just like slightly different.
I do like when something a little bit different is done live. It gives it a little bit of a personal touch to that performance, in my opinion. Um, the only time it drives me a little nuts is when either the crowd is singing along or whatever the case may be, but alternative lyrics are sang by the band. That's when it kind of, there's been a couple times on live DVDs where that happens too, and it takes me out of it too. Like,
Yeah.
what just but yeah, otherwise, no, I absolutely love it. When I saw, oh, what was that tour? It was like 2019. It was I'm going to call it a replacement of Warp Tour. Um, but like the Used, Thrice, and a bunch of people were on it. The Disrupt Festival, I think.
Okay.
But Bert from the Used did poetry between each song, and I loved that. That was a beautiful performance with poetry in between each. It just gave you a complete different environment, and it was captivating. Like between each song, it wasn't just banter. I don't know, it felt very different. So stuff like that I'm a sucker for.
Yeah, something different strikes you.
Yeah.
Take notice. Yeah, that's cool. And to know that he probably doesn't do that every show. He was probably just on one, and whatever. He's like, let's do this. This is crazy.
Yeah, I
I love
mean,
that kind of thing.
I like stuff to stay pretty much the same, but I mean, I don't mind a little bit of change up as long as it's not like a really like big pinnacle song. Like, oh, it was your top single. Don't change that. Don't change it.
Right.
Keep it the same. I don't want to. It was loved for a reason, as a top single. But I
Yeah.
mean, a little bit of what Chris said too. I mean, yeah, I don't mind. I like a little bit of shenanigans in between songs, have a little
So what
fun
you're
on
saying,
stage.
Right.
what you're saying is if Dan went off script with from Story of the Year on Until the Day I Die, you would not be happy.
Probably not, unless he played it acoustic instead. I mean, I love it acoustic as well.
Oh, that'd
So
be awesome.
Yeah, a good example of that, honestly, that works. This works well, I think, is the Offspring doing one of their songs. It's and it feels like heaven is so far away. That song, which is also a song that somebody already wrote before, and I can't remember what it is, uh, but it's a great song, great Offspring song, and they do a piano intro. Like the first half of the song live is piano, and it's just this like Guns N' Roses arena rock extravaganza, and it in that way, if you embrace that, it's awesome, and I love it. And then they kick into like the actual full band part of the song too, and then you kind of get the best of both worlds in that way.
yeah, definitely. Definitely. So you've been producing and releasing your own music for a lot of years now, because you've had a couple like labels, right? The MXPX Global Enterprise, right? And then Rock
Yeah,
City.
yeah. MXPX Global is just sort of what we use to release MXPX records independently, and then Rock City was just back in the early days. I thought I was gonna get crazy, and I did. I released a couple records. Too Bad Eugene, which is an amazing record, and they're making albums now on I think people at Punk Rock Records up in Canada signed them. But yeah, I over the years I've produced a few records. Element 101 back in the day, they were on Tooth and Nail for a while, but I quickly kind of realized, wow, this is taking some of the love out of what I do, doing so nowadays I produce my own stuff, I produce friend stuff, but for the most part I'm not like trying to do a business of like being a producer, or I'm kind of, it's today's weird anyway with technology and the modern culture we live in. You almost have to be everything no matter what, and who knows how we all make our money, right? Like I don't know how you guys make money. I don't know how anybody makes money, but producing, I don't think I ever really made any money producing. So I mean, maybe a couple bucks on the studio, but I have a studio here, and it's like it's been around since 2007 is when I started building it. So it's been around a while, and it's been keeping me going all these years. I never have I never have any free time because there's always things to fix in the studio.
Yeah, I mean, when you own a house too, there's always something, right, Chris?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. Let's not talk about that. I'm in the middle of a headache with my house. Um,
Yeah, I hear you. It's
my,
it'll be one thing, and then it'll be another once you fix that. So
well, my boiler went out the other day, so I woke up shivering. I actually literally just got over COVID a couple days ago, but I woke up shivering. I'm like, what's going on? My thermostat says it's like 62. It was no way it was 62. It was way colder than that. I come downstairs and it's like I get an error code saying this is the most boring thing to talk about. Um, but, but
but it
it's an
didn't
error code
work.
saying there's like a flow problem. I'm like, oh great, I got a call, and it's up and running for now. It's not permanently fixed, but hopefully soon. Talking about something a little more interesting. MXPX had Let's Ride featured on the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 release. What was that process like? And I'm also curious if the process for a newer game like THPS 1 and 2 was different than getting onto like Supercross 2000 or Sunny Garcia or The Sims.
Yeah, yeah, that's all licensing kind of stuff. And for Tony Hawk, I know that our management and the MXPX team on the management side really had relationships and we're talking to people about getting us on Tony Hawk. And I think the first time around, we just didn't have somebody in time to like have it on their radar to like get us on the early games. But then we ended up on, like you were saying, Sonny Garcia, SX3, which is a huge snowboarding game that was gigantic. There's been like 20 games or so that we've been on. There's probably been 20 or so movies we've been in over the years, probably even more than that. Honestly, it's not something I think about too often, but every now and again, I'll have a reason to like look up video games we've been part of. And I think it's just like a giant pile. Like there's just been so many. You know, and it was, you know, we were on this game Prey, Prey, like about this Native American warrior that goes around hunting and doing all this crazy stuff. So like people just come knocking on the door now and again, and if you're not too busy doing stuff, then maybe you have time to like, okay, maybe I'll write this song for your video game Prey, and then, you know, you go to the radio in the car and boom, there's MXPX. Things like that. I don't know how those happen, by the way. I mean, you're talking to the guy. I just write the song, I put it out there. I talk to people. I know that it somehow makes a difference, but you got to have good help as an artist. You don't have to, but being completely DIY is really hard because there's only so much time. Time management is key in that respect, but there's only so much time in the day to do all the things you need to do. Like you got to make videos, you got to talk to people, communicate, text people, think about things. I mean, there's just like, that's everyday stuff for an artist. But then if you put on like management stuff onto that's a lot. And it's not an easy job. I don't think managing anything is easy, right? Like, what does that even mean to manage? It means to move along, to make sure it works right, there's so many definitions, but somehow MXPX has been moving along and doing well, but it's not like it's always perfect. You know, we go over bumps and peaks and valleys and like anything, but just adapting, I think, is huge. And when it comes to being part of video games and all that, once you start releasing your own songs, like we've been doing the last couple of years, you start to realize, okay, now it's actually beneficial if we get placed on a video game, because the amount of people that listen to Let's Ride is insane. Like the you know, it's one of our biggest songs ever, and it was big even before it got put onto the Tony Hawk game. But just all these things, Tony Hawk certainly didn't hurt. It helped a lot, and all these things just push it up. Take a song like Stay Up All Night, which is our new single, and it's just about time because that's the song that the most people listen to from the new album.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's always everyone that I talk to's favorite, but you talk to enough people in aggregate and you start to see that pattern of, oh, Stay Up All Night, which is like, okay, good. I was a little worried, but just making sure we put out the right song. You know, our when we put out Let's Ride, it wasn't even supposed to be the first single, but it happened to be the single that was ready. So we had a video that we were being made in a couple different videos for our 2018 record, and Let's Ride was the first video ready. So we're like, okay, we got to put this out because we need to get this going. We're falling behind, and sometimes, you know, it just happens in a cool way with Let's Ride. But with Stay Up All Night, we were pretty sure, we're like, this is the song that keeps sticking in my head. This is the song that people keep talking about, you know, of the few people that we'd listen to the songs. But you can never tell, because so with our new single, it takes time, it takes years. Hopefully, you know, we can get it on some video games, like you're saying, or some movies or something like that. All of those things help, but it's just like, I think placements like video games and movies, that's just like one little piece, but you have to, like, live is just one little piece. Most people would think that, you know, the live part of a band or the live show of a band is like the most important part. And it starts out that way. But I think once you become established, all these other things start presenting themselves opportunities, and it can get really cumbersome because you don't know what the right path is to go down, because you can only, like I said, you can only do so much, right? So that's where a manager really can help, a team of people that can have a little bit of vision outside just one person's skull. And I rely on that quite a bit to get outside myself and go, it's not like I'm asking, do you like this song? It's more like, what is the future going to be like for not only musicians, but for all of us living on this planet? I mean, it really is more of a global game like that nowadays, rather than when I started, it was just like, let's take over the neighborhood. All right, let's take over a town. Let's take over our state. Let's take over the country. And then let's start flying internationally. It's like, it was all about touring, right? And so now it's just different because you can get to people so much faster. At the same time, and we know that there's an algorithm, there's roadblocks on the internet. So you can't necessarily get to 1 billion people just because 1 billion people are on the internet.
Right.
That's a little bit of that's like, I don't know, a magic elixir that isn't necessarily true, but we do have the internet. And so there is a lot of tools out there to use.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's hard keeping your social media presence going every day. I try to post every day, but sometimes it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and you kind of have to weigh the benefits of is every day better and just posting terrible stuff, or is it better to post something that's more substantial and has an actual like idea behind it? And I think that it's somewhere in between. And it's different for everybody. Some people are just all post whatever they can think of, and then other people are like way too precious about it and won't post anything unless it's like perfect.
Right.
So I'm somewhere in the middle. I don't know. And there's no right or wrong way to do. I mean, there's probably wrong ways to do it, but there's no one right way to do it.
It's true. Definitely
Yeah.
true.
So I have a couple thoughts or questions, whatever you want to call them, when it comes to Warped Tour. I know MXPX, I'll call you guys veterans of Warped Tour. I think there was 5 years. My first one starts with a little bit of a story. My friend Amy waited all day to see you guys to get to front row at Warped Tour. She fought her way to the front, and then in the middle of the set, a crowd surfer fell on her head. She was lifted up over the gate by security and brought to an ambulance. And she says that Yuri came and visited the ambulance. With that being a standout story for my friend Amy from Warped Tour, what are some standout stories from your perspective on Warped Tour?
Is Amy okay?
She's okay. She
Okay.
she was very excited that we were going to have you on, and I told her I would use her story as a lead-in to my Warped Tour questions.
Excellent. I'm glad you're okay. I was scared for a second there hearing this story, going, okay, what did we do? Yeah, Yuri, Yuri feels bad a lot of times because like he's actually like thrown his sticks out and hit somebody in the face with them, or like things. So so now he'll go out and he'll throw his stick sideways so you don't get a stick in the face. Like he's very thoughtful in that way. Me, I'm just winging picks out at people, so it could just go in your eye. Warped Tour. I remember Ohio. I got a tattoo from it because there was such a severe lightning storm that they shut down everything during the middle of the day. Cleveland, Ohio. Let me think of the year. 2005 maybe. Maybe it was early 2000s, somewhere in there. And the lightning was like, everything was just going crazy. That they put not only bands, but they put fans inside the semi trucks, inside the back of them. They just packed those with people, like just tons of people. So if you can imagine, like all these kids with bands and all the equipment, it's all in these semi trucks. And there's other people like trying to like find places to go, but I just remember that being one of the craziest storms. And it literally took our merch tent went flying 50 feet up into the air and came down somewhere else and smashed into pieces. And we're like, well, we need a new tent now. So like things like that. Man, it's mostly fun stuff though on the Warped Tour. Like I remember, Oliver Peck, the tattoo artist, was riding with us on that tour, and him and his buddy Keith Underwood, also a tattooer in Chicago and or Austin, Texas now. But we would just get tattooed every other day, which was the greatest thing ever for me as a young punk rocker. And we go gambling at casinos, hard eight for the win, be just rolling dice, playing craps. Always, we'd have these parties, Warped Tour after parties, where everybody in the buses would play like cornhole and roll some CeeLo dice games, just gambling, dollars, $5. It'd get crazy now and again and go big bills. But yeah, just that was I feel like, as anything does, Warped Tour over the years had eras and changed. And that to me was just one of the greatest eras. It was established. We were, all the bands that I was with we were all established, and it was more of just like a hangout barbecue kind of vibe. There's Less Than Jake, hanging out. There's Pennywise. Because the early years of Warped Tour were great for us too, but we were just kids. We were just like wide-eyed, kind of just trying to survive, to be honest. Our first year on Warped Tour, we didn't do the full thing, but we did it in a van. 1997, the last leg of Warped Tour on the East Coast. We were driving our van all night long, and then just parking in the morning, sleeping throughout the early morning, finding out when our set time is, sleep, make sure you got enough gas before you park for the day, because we literally have to drive, run our van all day to have the AC going. And most people on Warped Tour are in buses. And so, of course, the next year we got a bus and all that, but just those days were fun and different, not as hangout. It wasn't like a nonstop party. It was like a grind where, the stage, our van's here and all our gear's here, and the stage is on the other side of 5,000 people. Okay, let's figure out how to get our gear to that stage, things like that, but Warped Tour is always fun. Always. We were just at Kevin Lyman's house. MXPX was in LA, and he was hanging, so he's like, come by the house before the show. And so the night before the show, we came by, had pizza, just heard stories. Kevin Lyman just telling us stories about just whatever, like old Warped Tour stories that we were even kind of part of. And it was one of the best times. So I can imagine you getting together with your friend, talking about her in the ambulance and having Yuri come by, and it's good stuff.
Oh yeah.
No,
I got lots of stories from Warped Tour too. I mean, I went to 16
Same.
years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So as it changed over the years, you were also changing.
Right.
So I wonder how much you noticed about life changing as you were like, I bet there could be some sort of dissertation in college, somebody doing their thesis on how Warped Tour really changed with how the culture changed in life, and when Warped Tour started, CDs were big. CDs were the thing that people bought. And when Warped Tour ended, CDs were nowhere to be found. You have people in the parking lot hawking like a compilation, and that's about it, right?
Right. Yeah. And you were talking about Kevin Lyman. I'm like, oh, I listened to his podcast when he had it on.
Yeah, he's a professor now. He's he teaches all things kind of music business type things, and he's got a team of young aspiring music business people. I don't know what you call them, but everybody there's so many different things you can do in any business, right? So
right.
But he does well. He's really good he's a good talker. He can just talk for hours and hours, and he's always got something. So
maybe he'll come on our podcast.
He might.
Now I heard that when bands played the Buffalo stop of Warped Tour, they liked to hop over to Darien Lake because it was right next door to the performing center. Do you remember going over to the theme park?
Oh yeah.
In the Buffalo stop?
For sure. Yep, we would get over there. We'd have like with your Warped Tour, you could just skip the line and get it for free. It was great. It was amazing. Yeah, there was always like things we would do. If Warped Tour didn't have very many days off, but when we did, there was always something. So later in the years, when we were friends with everybody more, it was less of a grind. We could plan to like go with everybody, and everybody. What I mean by that is like all the production buses. And so there's there's people that work for Warped Tour and they're all in these buses. And then there's some artists that are like single artists that like buy spaces on that bus. And there's vendors that buy space on certain buses. So it kind of works like that. And a lot of them will kind of like go and do, this group will do this thing and this group will do this thing. So one of the best things ever is to go to the lake, wherever we are. I mean, upstate New York, there's always good lakes, but we'll go to a lake, have a cookout, barbecue, just get a bunch of food, and all the bands and all the production people are just all gathered in a camping spot, basically. Those are some of the best times ever. Just Kevin Lyman's on the grill, cooking lobster, cooking, just like whatever, right? Good stuff. And things like that would happen quite a bit over the years. I think another really kind of fun yet actually helpful thing we did one year, it was probably 2005 if I can remember correctly, but it might have been actually a year I did I came back and did like 3 or 4 shows in the acoustic underground tent.
Yeah.
I tried it out. I wouldn't suggest doing it again. I probably wouldn't do it again, only because it's really not a good idea to play acoustic at Warped Tour. It's too loud, too noisy. So the whole time I'm just bashing away on the acoustic. But at any rate, that year we were in Jersey. We went out to Jersey Shore on our day off and cleaned up the beach. And just it was all production people. No bands were really there. But I was riding on Kevin Lyman's bus, so I was there. It's like, okay, I'm doing this. And I went out and we just went out and just picked up all this garbage and I was like, this is great. I was like, is this what it feels like to help people and to do things that are good for the environment and like the community? I was laughing to myself, just like, this is great. I love it. So things like that, it's like use our time wisely.
Well, I mean, you got to give back, right?
You don't have to, but I think it's not a bad idea, certainly, right? Like,
not a bad idea.
I never regretted that for one second, so it was made easy for me because I didn't really have to do much. I didn't have to plan it, just showed up and helped. But the Warped Tour production people were and still are. I still hang out with them quite a bit and keep in contact. They're great, and they not only care about what they're doing in their job right there, but they care about the community and they care about the music community. So I learned a lot from Warped Tour, and Warped Tour really it allowed us to play in front of really big audiences. I don't know if we would have played in front of that big of audiences if it hadn't been for Warped Tour. I mean, we did open up for No Doubt in 1997, same year. So we were on a trajectory that was really going well. Like we were in demand. And but Warped Tour, man, I mean, that's like I said, it's kind of like our college, like I was talking about with Ataris. It's another form of college, like another year of college was Warped Tour.
Definitely. So I want to back up slightly before I ask my next question.
Sure.
You were talking about flinging picks. I'm pretty sure I have one of your picks.
Yeah, you might. I
definitely do. And I definitely have a MXPX keychain that I've had since like 2001.
Nice.
And I still have it on my keys, my car keys. I had to mention that just because, it's crazy. It's held up.
Okay. Extra credit right there for still having it on your car keys.
I still do.
Props.
Do. The plastic back then must have been something else because it's lasted.
Yeah, right. We always had so many different weird things. Like one year on Warped Tour, in fact, we were promoting a new record like we always do, and it was slowly going the way of the Buffalo, and it was A&M Records, so we had a bit of a budget. So our manager at the time came to us and was like, hey, we need some ideas, we want to make some things to give to people, and da. And so we made a bunch of things, one of which was like I don't even know what you call those things. It's an antenna ball. That's what you call it. A Poking at Your Punk antenna ball. Everybody that year had Poking at Your Punk antenna balls. But the thing that I still get brought up to, people still bring it up to me about, is we had laundry bags, like just white plain laundry bags with the Poking at Your Punk and MXPX on it. And we gave it out to all the bands and all the production on Warped Tour that year. And to this day, like, El Jefe from NoFX will be like, yeah, I still got my bag, I still use it, like things like that. So like the keychain, the laundry bag, it's just MXPX is I don't know what we are, but like we just always have this crazy merch.
And you last long. It lasts long.
It lasts a long time. Lasts a long time. Yes.
So it was back in, I believe, 2007. I think I saw you guys at the Metro in Chicago. I think it was the Metro or the House of Blues, one of the two. But I know the fans got invited to come hang out with you guys at White Castle afterwards. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. That was the Tooth and Nail tour sponsored by White Castle. That was in the dark days of touring. I mean, there's been many different eras of dark days of touring, but that was one of the darker days of touring where most bands weren't doing well. Touring in general, just ticket sales weren't great. And so the Tooth and Nail tour, again, marketed pretty badly, but at the same time, like if we somehow made it happen, we did it. I'm sure we probably lost money on it, but the best part was White Castle. White Castle sponsored the tour, and we got a card or some, we got this magic card. We could go in any White Castle and get whatever we wanted, unlimited. So after every show, we'd invite all of our fans, not anybody that wanted to come hang out with us. We're going to be at White Castle on this White Castle in about, half hour, 45 minutes. And we'd go and there would just be, did you go to the White Castle?
I did.
Was there a bunch of people in there?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of
It was
people
crazy.
there.
It was always packed. It was like late at night after the show, and we would just like buy a bunch of people White Castle and immediately regret it after we ate it. But it was great at the time.
Yeah, I remember I had the friends I was with, they were like stacking burger boxes to make it say MXPX at the White Castle we were at.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they
I hope
did
you
take
guys...
a group photo outside. And I actually did get a copy of it. It's really bad though, because it was like back in 2007. And I think it was a really bad cell phone photo, but it's still there. It exists. I can totally send it to you.
Send it to me. Send it. Would love to see it. Yeah, those are good times. That was awesome. And the White Castle thing was kind of just so random, but we were on White Castle movie. What is it? What's that movie?
Harold and Kumar?
Yes, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. So we were on that movie where like there's like a scene where they're like running trying to get to White Castle and Chick Magnet comes on. And that was really fun to go to the theater and just enjoy this movie. And the movie's held up. I haven't seen it lately, so maybe it doesn't hold up, but years later it became like a cult classic, which is kind of cool. It's probably dying now, though. It's time for Harold and Kumar Part 2. Let's go.
Wasn't there a second movie? I feel like
actually, there probably was. I think it was like they went to Europe or something.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I feel like something like that. I don't know. Chris, you can look it up, right?
Sure, I can look it up.
He's always right there on his computer. So
I was trying to find a copy of the laundry bag, and I came up blank.
Yeah. See, it was never sold. It was never like fans didn't have any. It was all just we made them and we gave them to like band guys and production, and pretty wild. But the antenna ball, however, we gave those out at the booth like all day at Warped Tour that year. Whatever
might
year
be able
that
to
was.
find one on eBay.
Oh yeah, you could definitely find a picture of it at least. Somebody's got it.
Harold and Kumar 2 was Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay.
Guantanamo Bay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I knew there was
Guantanamo Bay, Europe, close enough.
Guantanamo Bay. What a fun theme for a movie. Like premise. Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah. Well, so your podcast that you have, the Mike Herrera Podcast, it's coming up on 11 years, I believe, this month, I think.
It is. I'm not good at anniversaries, so I always like find out about the anniversaries after they've happened. And I was like, oh yeah, it's been 10 years. Oh, it was 10 years. All right, cool. But I'm coming up.
You were like, yeah.
I'm at 494 right now, 494 episodes. So 500's coming up. And my producer, Bob, keeps asking me, like, what are we going to do for this? What are we going to do? I mean, what do you want to do for this? Should I do something special or should I just, I don't know. I feel like the podcast is something that I could absolutely put more bells and whistles into, but for me, it's about just getting to the core of what it is. So if it's a voicemail and they're asking about, like, you could possibly call in and ask and tell the story about White Castle and your friends at the White Castle and that tour and seeing us there. And then I would talk about that on my podcast. Like, so it's not too dissimilar to just a normal podcast, but sometimes I have guests, usually band people. Sometimes it's business people that are doing something kind of interesting that I want to know about, or it's just me talking to you guys, talking to the audience and just trying to be entertaining, which, to be honest, normally I would never want to do that. But for some reason, like, I can do a podcast. I can just sit here and talk.
Yeah.
But if you asked me to sit here and talk without the microphone and not recording, I could not do it. Like, it would fall apart. So I think there's just something about the fact that we're live, we're going, let's go.
It's kind of like
It's
a
funny.
performance, right?
Kind of.
You're in front of
Yeah,
a mic.
I'm kind of the same way, actually. And actually, now that I work from home and I work remotely, when I talk with my coworkers, it's easier than talking to somebody face to face for some reason. For me, I can
Mhm.
make it flow better. Even like with our podcast, I'm able to converse easier. And I mentioned my friend coming over to that house party and using the bidet at the top of the podcast. I never used to want to have house parties. I was not that person. And then one day my wife and I were just kind of like, let's do it. Like, people always want to go to parties. They never want to host one, but they want to go to one. I'm like, why don't we host one and just see what happens? And so now it's like a thing. Like, every 2 to 3 months we'll have one, and we're just surprised. Like, we've never really considered ourselves to be people who have like a huge list of friends, and we're like, oh, people won't show up. And then we start getting like the people responding yes, and we're like, shit, our house is way too small for this. Um, but yeah,
So
I broke out of that comfort zone. And I probably wouldn't have offered my help up to Jess if I hadn't had that first house party first
right.
and joining
So
the podcast.
that is interesting. I mean, I know adults do have parties, but there's always a reason for it. So you don't even have a reason. You're just like, let's party.
Sometimes there usually is a loose theme tied in. Our very
What?
first one was
Okay.
our first one was a Friendsgiving. So we just kind of had people. My cousin brought like 10 pounds of stuffing for some unknown reason. Uh,
And then you
uh,
watch Friends episodes or what?
no. We just hang out and
Yeah.
talk, and then since then we've had 2 Christmas parties. We had a Labor Day, 4th of July, and then we had one in the summer just because. Actually, I think the reason was we had too much stuff left over from a previous party, like bottles of soda and wine and all this. And I'm like, we're never going to use it. We have to throw another party so it can go.
That's perfect.
Um,
You should have a
so
celebration of life, but then, like, nobody actually died. Be like, wait, what?
You're
Bad joke.
celebrating your life that you're living right now.
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Celebration of our life now. Like, let's celebrate. Let's go.
Yeah. So you mentioned on your podcast you answer voicemails left by
Mhm.
fans. Have you had any that really stick out, or that you've heard maybe that you didn't even answer on air that you were like, what the heck did I
Oh,
just?
there's been some weird stuff. I'll usually play those stuff. But one that comes to mind, it was fairly recently, it was a positive call. It was a guy that called in and said that his coworker, who he didn't even really know, had messaged him and said, "Hey, you really helped me with something." And he's like, "Wait, what did I do? I don't even really know this guy." And he talked to him, and the guy said, "I've been going through major addiction issues and I'm trying to kick some habits. I don't know exactly what, but bottom line is I knew you were an MXPX fan and I heard something you were playing and it kind of like hit me in a cool way and I started listening to it. Now I like the music and the music keeps me motivated to stay sober and to not get, on my drugs and all whatever he's saying. Like, that's the sentiment basically that was happening. And I was just like blown away. Like, I guess that's why we do this positive stuff, because I mean, we all have these negative thoughts that can really take us too far down one way. So yeah, I mean, that is huge for me. Just hearing that something that I wrote, some songs that we put out, has helped somebody turn their life around in a positive way. That's the best.
Definitely. It's good that you can be positive in someone's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's really easy to stay negative. I mean, I can complain just like everyone, with the best of them, but to put that out there to the public, that's something I definitely don't want to do. So it helps me complain less in real life, I feel like, because I just try to be who I am all the time rather than, oh, let's like, yes, we'll put it on a show because I'm not going to like take a nap right now on the podcast, but it's still me, it's like, but yeah, I life is good. I like to keep it positive, keep, and if people can get something good out of that, um, I'm really happy. That makes me really happy. Yep.
So I've listened to the podcast, and I remember this episode, the spider episode,
Oh
where
yes.
you did end up killing the poor little thing, or was it a big thing? I don't know. I wasn't sure at the end.
The one it was at the I've had a few spiders
It
stories,
was the
so it
one
was
where it was in your car.
in my car. Yes, I did. There's a couple different stories, and one time I definitely didn't find the spider, but the one I think you're talking about on the podcast was I was in the Safeway parking lot, which is a grocery store,
Yes.
and all of a sudden, yeah, the spider just goes right in front of my face, and I'm just like, wow. I think honestly, like the more those kinds of things happen, I get a little desensitized each time. So I think it's kind of helping. It's like almost like therapy for PTSD and for like whatever, you have to like face your fears. And that's what these spider stories are doing to me, is like I'm finally getting a little less scared of spiders. Like when I go to, especially because I live part-time in Texas as well. Everything's crazy there. Everything. So I've just gotten less squeamish about bugs and flies
Right.
and spiders in general because living in Texas. And I also drive way faster now. I used to drive the speed limit, chill. Washington State, you'll get pulled over for, going 3 over, or at least here in Bremerton where I live. So I just was always driving, like just looking over my shoulder, and I moved to Texas and everybody's just like, rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, these people are crazy. And, a couple years later, I'm just like, bah, bah, bah. I guess I'm crazy
Yeah.
now.
I think it's funny though, because like I used to hate spiders, and I feel like as I've gotten older, I've come to actually like them more.
Because you kind of
Like,
realize they eat bugs and they take care of other things that you don't want.
and as long as it's not poisonous, I mean, I'm good, right?
Right. Right.
I work at a thrift store, so I come across a lot of spiders, and I tend to try to save them. Like I try to get them to get on my finger and like take them outside.
So
I don't want to murder them.
you're handling them with your bare hands.
Yes.
You're at yeah, you're not scared of spiders. You've never been scared of spiders. My son will
wife
do
is.
that. My son will do that, but he'll just grab slugs and snails and spiders and anything. He'll just, no problem. But none of the rest of us in the family, we're like,
No.
we're good.
My wife is very deathly afraid of spiders. There was one time, funny you mentioned that spider in the car. I don't remember where we were driving, but all of a sudden a spider comes from behind the mirror and just starts coming down. She sees it. She unbuckles her seatbelt and does a backwards roll over the center console into the back seat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how did you just do that?
And
Like,
should I grab the steering wheel or?
but yeah, it was impressive. I've never seen her so athletic in my life.
So it can be done.
Yeah.
Just gotta use spiders.
Yep. Darn spiders. They just leave me alone. If they just leave people alone, then everyone else leaves them alone. So
Agreed. Like I said, I've come a long way. I don't hate them anymore. I don't want them on me. I don't want to eat them.
well, I
But
mean, technically they
you
say we
do?
eat a bunch of bugs in a year. So while we're sleeping.
How many? Like nine spiders, 9 bugs a year?
I
Probably
think
more.
it's more than that. It's a lot more
Oh
than that.
God.
I know.
Don't you
Crazy to
also
think about.
don't you also eat a credit card worth of plastic every
Probably.
month? Like
There's some crazy
microplastics?
things that we ingest that we don't even know about.
That's the next podcast episode right there. You know, we could put the bidet thing back into that too.
Sure, we could talk about things we don't know we're eating and bidets.
And why you should use bidet.
So I feel like you've probably been asked this before because you've been playing in Goldfinger for a while, but how did you start playing bass in Goldfinger back in 2016? Like, how did that come to be?
John called me up in 2013 and said, "Hey, we need somebody for Australia. Do you want to go to Australia?" And that was the first phone call. And I've known John a while, but we don't talk, usually. So it was random. But that was 2013. It was streaming was kind of getting going, but like the music business was not what it is today, like, or what it was in even 2016. So like I was not as busy then. MXPX was doing a couple shows a year, and I had just more time on my hands. I was doing Tumbledown, which was my other side band as well. And it's like, all right, let's go. I went to Australia, and ever since that tour, that was Australia with it was Real Big Fish, Goldfinger, and Zebrahead. And ever since then, it's just I've just been part of the crew. He calls me up. Now and again, I can't make a show and I don't play. It's usually because of MXPX. But yeah, it's been so much fun just getting to hang with John, getting to play those songs. I'm a huge fan of Goldfinger. I love those songs. I love that first album. Here in Your Bedroom was the first song I heard from them on MTV. Like, to me, they were like, they're legends. They got it going on. So I could add my celebrity to the band and bring it up a notch, and it's really been great. It's really been awesome. And I'm not saying because of me. I'm just kidding about that. But no, but it's been cool to do something way less stressful in general, because I don't have to be the front man. I can just go and play bass, and I sing a little bit, and then now and again I'll sing like a lead vocal, but for the most part it's night and day easier than doing what I do with MXPX.
What have been some of your favorite older Goldfinger songs to learn to play?
Here in Your Bedroom, like I said, is probably my favorite song from back in the day. That one's actually kind of one of the harder ones. All the other ones are pretty decent. I really like playing San Simeon. It's a cool song. I just love the chorus and the bass line in the chorus. Dun, dun, do, 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 do. It's just got this, it just rolls off the fingers just to do this bass line. I love that. And then Get What I Need, it's new. It's a new song, but it's off of not the latest album, but the one before it, I think. The Knife. It's called Get What I Need. Such a great ska. If you like ska, it's a great ska song. The bass line is so much fun for me to play. It's just nonstop. But yeah, so in the last, I'll finish Goldfinger with this. The last album that just came out, I think it's called Never Look Back. I wrote a couple of, I co-wrote a couple of the songs on the record, which was cool to like add my lyrics to some of the stuff. And if you hear me singing, then I wrote the lyrics for it. So there's a couple songs I sing leads on. Not the whole song, by the way. Just like I'll take a verse, I'll take a chorus, I'll take a bridge, things like that. So
I
that
feel
was
like
fun.
I've listened to that. I've always been a fan of Goldfinger as well, ever since Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and like hearing Superman.
Yeah, the first song on that new record is called I don't Infinite. It's called Infinite. I love that song. But it's really cool because John sings and then Charlie, the guitar player, sings, and he's got a really rough voice. And he's been on a couple songs randomly over the years, one of which is called Nothing or anyway, let's go back to this song, Infinite. He sings and then I sing the bridge. So there's like 3 different voices on the song, plus singing, harmonies on the chorus. And so yeah, that one for me is really fun. Not only I like to listen to it, but I really enjoy playing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear. Chris.
Didn't realize I was still muted. Sorry.
Oh.
I don't want to.
I was like, what's going on?
unmuted when I clear my throat. And I didn't realize I didn't unmute. Sorry. So what have been some of your favorite bands that you've played with over the years that aren't around anymore that you would love to have them come back and get an opportunity to play with them again?
That's a tough one. Who's not around anymore? That's like, it's hard to remember who's not around, right? Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. They're not around anymore.
Sure.
They were always great, cool dudes. The Specials. I remember I didn't know everybody in the Specials, but there was a couple people in the Specials that I would like talk to. When we did Warp Tour with them a couple times. And Warp Tour in Europe is so small compared to the US one, meaning not the crowd sizes, but the amount of bands on the tour is much smaller. So you really, anybody on those tours, you really kind of get to know them. So like we did it was like No Use for a Name, Pennywise, Wizzo, I mean early Warp Tour stuff. But yeah, the Specials were always really cool dudes. And I didn't even realize at the time, and I knew they were legends, but I didn't realize how legendary, like I just, because I wasn't a huge ska fan back then. All I knew about the Specials was like Message to You, Rudy by Propaganda. And so I was like, oh, it's that band. All right, okay, okay. Like me as like a little kid, literally becoming a punk rocker because I like this music, not knowing all the history of ska, punk, hardcore, the Specials. I knew bands and I knew some, but I didn't certainly know all the pieces and how to put them together, right? So, but despite all of that, I always respected and treated them with respect. Even though I didn't know how legendary they were. But had I known, I probably would have like annoyed the crap out of them, like never left them alone. Like I did with the Descendants. 97 Warp Tour, the Descendants were on it, we were on it, and I just hung out with them every day and went on their like little bus thing. They had sort of like these DIY little trucks made into bunk buses. And I just hang out with Stefan every day, hang out with Carl. It was cool.
Hey, at least they didn't get sick of you. They probably would have like hid from you if they had gotten sick of you.
Yeah, probably. I assume so. Like
So
bring them coffee.
so we actually talked about MXPX in a previous episode that we had. It was called State Champs. So we talked about MXPX and how you guys got the key to the city of Bremerton years ago. Do you still have that key? And how did that feel?
Yeah. That's the key to the city. I remember when we found out we might get the key to the city going like, is it a real key? What does it open? Like, but yeah, that was a huge honor. I mean, the city of Bremerton, where we were born and raised, Mayor Kerry Bozeman, who was a man, not a woman, but his name is Kerry. He was pretty good. He'd come over from Seattle, and Bremerton was not doing well financially. I don't know, people don't want a lesson in Bremerton civic history, but Bremerton just traditionally wasn't great economically. We had the shipyard that kind of like kept everybody going, but all blue collar, all just getting by. And Kerry Bozeman came in and he really made Bremerton better for businesses, brought in a lot more businesses, local people coming in and starting their own stuff. And so I really felt like he was pretty good for the city. And then on top of it, gives MXPX the key to the city. We were stoked. We had a song called Move to Bremerton, still do, technically. Still play it now and again. But our song became like the anthem for them. They had this like campaign for tourism, and the song was the theme. And I think that's partly why we got the key to the city. And ever since then, we've really been able to do just about anything in our town. And we don't usually ask for too much, but now and again something comes up. We want to film this. We want to maybe put on a show here on outside or whatever it may be. They let us do it. It's amazing.
It's because you're local celebrities.
I think part of that, I mean, I hope that's why. I mean, yeah, I would feel less cool if they just let anybody do it, right?
It's true. You would feel less cool. Do you still have the key?
I still have the key. Sorry, I didn't finish that. I do have the key. It's sitting in my downstairs studio at my house. I've got like a mini studio at my house. It's like a one room where I can sit down there and write or whatever. But mostly what it does is it just like I put things on the shelf and it collects things, and I'll put like Christmas presents in there when I'm shopping and they're not wrapped yet. That's what my little studio is for. But also for the key to the city.
Nice.
And it's just a little plaque about this big with a key inside of it, and City of Bremerton Mayor Carrie Bozeman. Doesn't actually fit in any locks.
Yeah. Did you guys have to fight over it?
We all have one. We all
Oh,
have
see,
our own.
you all
Yeah.
got keys. So they
We all
made
have
copies.
keys.
Oh.
Yeah. They made copies. It's a skeleton key. But yeah, Bremerton, Washington. It's been, it's not where I went to high school. I went to high school in Silverdale, which is the town next to Bremerton, but that's just due to where I lived.
Right.
But yeah, I was born and raised in Bremerton, Washington, right there. And I don't know. It's come a long way. Always a long way to go, but that's life. We're always on this journey, and I think it's the same with bands, the same with even a podcast. If you look back to your first episodes, probably a lot different than it is right now in 2024.
Oh yeah. But
Probably a little.
we only have like 29 or 30 episodes that we've released, so we're fairly new to this.
Okay,
So.
new, but
Yep.
still, there's got to be something you've changed.
Oh yeah, we've changed a lot of things.
There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
Changed the logo. We had a different logo when we started, so.
Perfect.
So speaking of journeys, in 2018, you and your family had the pleasure of being on Fixer Upper.
Yes.
Can you
yes.
can you share your experience about that? First of all, before you answer, I want to say I love when I Google that information because everything says what happened to Mike Herrera from Fixer Upper. Like,
Oh, really?
What happened to him? What?
I just remember watching HGTV because I love watching Fixer Upper, and I'm like, whoa, wait, I know that person.
It's so crazy because that is a different level, because punk rock is such a small community. Really, if you think about the bands, the fans of the bands, it's so much smaller than, say, hip hop, metal. I mean, metal's small too, I think, but hip hop, pop, those are big, big, big. Like, so going into Fixer Upper, also just network, it's like a network TV kind of show, a very popular show. Aside from that, just like the amount of people that see you is just astronomical. Like, I wonder how many more records we sold just because I was on that show. I don't know, but it's hard to quantify. But we'll be at like a hotel at a show like in LA or something, and go out to the, we're hanging outside and having a drink or something in the patio, and I'll get recognized. And I get recognized for MXPX all the time, like in the airport or at a restaurant or something, even at hotels. But this happens now is like some older people will come up and start saying, "Hey, wait a second, I know you." And like, I had this like group of hockey moms all surrounding me, asking me questions about the show. Chip and Joanna, are they nice? Hey, what do you do? Do you still have your house? All this thing. So we weren't calculating doing the show because we were trying to promote MXPX or anything. Like, honestly, my wife was a huge fan of the show, and I would now and again watch it with her. But one day I walk in, she's watching the show, and she's like, "Hey, I just signed us up to be on the show. If we get in, we got to buy a house in Texas, right?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. Thinking, yeah, right. Sure.
You're not
We're
going
going
to
to
get
get
on
in.
it.
Well, we didn't get on it quite then, but as time went on, a month or two, somebody dropped out. And, well, okay, let me back up for a second. Holly's like, "All right, this isn't working. Mike, send this picture." She sent me a picture of the kids holding a sign, "Texas or bust." "Send this picture, tweet it to Chip. Tell him this family's ready to move to Texas. Pick us." And then hashtag Fixer Upper. You can go, the tweet's still there. You can go, and this was Thanksgiving. We're in Houston, Texas at some family. We're at the airport heading back to Washington. I look at my phone. Chip Gaines tweeted me back and said, "How can I say no to those beautiful faces?" And so I'm like, "Babe, did you see this?" And she's like, "Are we buying a house in Texas?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, but I think we might have to." So that was the beginning of how we got on the show. So what happened was we found out later that they had all their people ready for the show, and the last person, or one of their people dropped out. Somebody couldn't. They were supposed to move to Texas for work, to Waco for work, and that fell through. And so they were like, "Well, I'm not buying a house in Texas now. I'm not going to Texas." Opened up the door for my tweet to Chip. He sees that. He sends it to his assistant. The producer calls me, Michael. He's a video guy. He's a guy that we ended up like going to his house for like dinner, years later, just hanging out with him and his family, because we became friends with people on their crew and stuff. So this whole thing just starts happening where these people start calling us. We get, okay, we need to do a Skype interview and make sure you're not crazy. So the casting director called us, asked us some questions, got our story, all this stuff. So, I mean, at that point, we're like, all right, this is happening. This is like 2016, I think. And it took about a year to make all that happen, film it. And then, I don't know, it was probably like 3 months and the house was done. It took about 3 months. And then they had to wait for another half a year or a little bit more till that episode came out. But yeah, it was a well-oiled machine by that point. We were the very last episode of the main, like, not season, but season and the series, like the main first series that was hugely popular. They've had a lot of offshoots since then, but
Yeah.
they're their main fixer-upper show. So kind of cool to be part of history in that way. Honestly, like we didn't really set out to be on a reality TV show, even though we kind of did because my wife signed up. But honestly, you do that kind of thing not thinking it's going to happen.
Right.
And then it happened.
And then it happened. And now you're best friends with Chip, right?
Best friends with Chip. Yep. Go Cowboys. Just kidding. I'm a Seahawks fan, but I'll watch the Cowboys in default just because I know people that love them.
I don't know. They're not America's team to me.
They're not America's team. That's for sure. Whoever decided they were America's team?
Exactly. That's what I say all the time. I feel like more people would like the Green Bay Packers than the Cowboys.
I was just watching a great clip about the Seahawks coming back against the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. Oh, it was a beautiful video. And I didn't know you were a Packers fan, and I'm sorry.
Well, I'm from Wisconsin, so.
Yeah, of course. Well, now I mean, I didn't know at the time I was watching the video that I was going to be talking to a future Packers fan.
It's okay.
Anyway, yeah.
I can take the
rough.
trash. I can
well,
take
we have the worst loss ever. Like, I think it's worse if you lose. Well, maybe it's not worse if you lose at the very end, but the way that we lost, and I'm talking about the Patriots, Seahawks, 2013 Super Bowl.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, with that pass instead of a run.
Pass instead of a run. Intercepted on the goal line.
But what would have happened if you tried to run the ball and then you got stopped anyway? Like, wouldn't that have made it worse?
No, that's just normal frustration. Like, that's a football play. I mean, so is passing, but it's like, okay, you would have said, why did they run? I mean, they knew they were going to run because it's so obvious, right? Like, that's what you think. So, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
But I will never say they should have passed and they did the right thing. I will always say, no matter what, because we'll never know, should have given it to, who was it?
Sherman?
Marshawn Lynch. Sherman's the defensive player, cornerback, one of the best in the league. He's the guy that's like, you try me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's what you're going to get every time. Remember that?
Maybe it's just me. He was a character.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's such a character. He got a job as a broadcaster. He's a broadcaster now. He does a pretty good job with it.
Yes. Let's not get started about all the mistakes our teams can make.
Yeah, you're right. I know.
And we all think we're coaches when we're yelling at the TV, like, no, you should have done this. I could coach this team better.
Well,
Right.
both of our teams lost on a field goal this year, Jess.
It is true.
Both of our teams.
Ouch.
I know.
Ouch. Who's your team, Chris?
Bills.
Bills. Ouch. That was a rough one.
Yeah, my entire extended family's from in Buffalo, so by osmosis, I'm a Bills fan. And yeah, that was a tough one.
Was that worse than the Dallas Cowboys loss?
I was too young to remember that.
No, I was
Like
talking
all
about their loss this year. Sorry.
Oh,
Well, I would say it is.
I would say
because
it's pretty on par.
I would say my take is the Cowboys are always have been known for choking in the playoffs. Really, this newer modern era, the whole time. So to me, I knew they were going to choke, and I was like, okay, whatever. The Bills, kind of the same thing, not in the same way. And I don't want to say choke because I don't think that's it. I just think there's just something that happens where they just can't quite put it together against the Chiefs. They can beat almost anybody else, but the Chiefs seem to be their kryptonite.
That's
I don't
the
know what-
49ers for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like to describe the Bills in any sort of playoff run as the 2015 Panthers. So the Panthers just got really lucky in 2015. Like if you watch the highlight reels, they had so many plays that were just how did they happen? Like there was one, like a fumble happened and the ball hit the ground, popped up over the over the running back shoulder, and he caught it and went for a touchdown. Like that shouldn't have happened. Like they had so many plays that were pure luck. And so I describe the Bills in the playoffs. They just get sloppy. They're sloppy winners in the playoffs. And then it just catches up with them because you can't be sloppy and make it to the Super Bowl. So I think that's what gets them every time.
That sounds about right. And I think the same thing goes for the Seahawks is we're just not quite there, and we get lucky to get there. Lately anyway, but it's a whole new ball game for us next year. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? We got a new coach. We're going to probably have a new quarterback, but we don't know who yet. Right now we have Mike McDonald just got hired. By the time it's old news by the time this comes out, but I mean, not old, a couple weeks maybe, but I have no idea. Everybody's happy about it, so I have no idea what to really think about it. All I think is cool. Let's give him a chance. Let's do it. He's the youngest coach in NFL history to be a head coach for the Seahawks, which is whatever. It's a stat, it's like, doesn't mean he's going to be good or bad. It just means he probably have a fresh perspective on the game and be willing to take some chances. I really like what Mike Daniels has done in Miami, that young guy. But I thought we froze up for a second, but it's just me talking about football.
That's okay. I mean, we could talk football forever, right?
I love football. I love it. I like NBA too. You guys watch NBA at all?
I'm not an NBA person. I'm more of a football, baseball, hockey.
I love hockey as well. There's just not enough time, so I spend most of my brain power on football. And then once football's done, then I'll watch a little bit of basketball, but only when I have time, like big games, things like that. But I really love it. I love the drama. I love seeing the beef between the best players and them trying to outdo each other. And that happens with NFL, and I love that. It happens with NBA. It happens in hockey. Yeah. It's great.
I'm a hockey fan because, my nephew is 11 and my nieces are 8 and they're all in hockey. So
Wisconsin. Yeah.
I know. They're all in hockey.
You're basically Canada. It's like American Canadians.
It's true. It's true. We're close. We're close.
Very close.
Well, I think that was it for all of our questions that I can remember, unless Chris has any random other ones he wants to ask.
No, I don't really have any other random ones. I know I stripped out my favorite questions, but they don't apply in this situation, so it's okay.
Yeah. And is there anything else you'd want to add in, Mike?
Just everybody check out mxspeaks.com. We got dates coming your way, hopefully, in your area. We're going to be hitting all places. So if you don't see it, just wait for it. But new record, Find a Way Home. We're really proud of it. We got new merch on mxspeaks.com, and we have all these variants. We have picture discs, different colors of vinyl, and we have all our old records in stock, most of our old records in stock as well. So it's a mom and pop store. We run it ourselves. So any kind of support we get, we always appreciate.
Yeah, definitely. I can contest the new record's great.
Thank you. All right. Thanks for having me, y'all. Have a great day, great rest of your week, and
You
we'll chat
too.
soon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll chat soon.